Hello there, welcome back to Deep Dive Cinema, the only podcast where I found out we're accurate with our upload schedule 66% of the time.
Which is just less than 2/3, so majority.
Apart from this week, because we are not in the country and already a day late upon recording this.
Yeah, but hey, we're on holiday. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween to any of you Halloween lovers out there.
To you spookmeisters.
What's your favorite Halloween film?
My favorite Halloween film, A Christmas Carol.
Me too.
Is A Nightmare Before Christmas a Halloween film?
I think it's more of a Christmas film than a Halloween film.
That's fair.
However,
if it was,
who cares?
Yeah, if it was, I'd say that. If not, then Frankenweenie. I saw that in the shop today, and I was like, "Hey, I love Frankenweenie," and you said, "Who cares?"
I've started saying that a lot. I didn't say that before we started recording this podcast.
Yeah, so
And now
look what you've done.
I just constantly say, "Who cares?"
Yeah.
Even when people offer me things, they're like, "Do you want this biscuit?" I'm like, "Who cares?" Which isn't an answer. It's not a yes. It's not a no.
Welcome to Deep Dive Cinema, the only podcast that will turn its hosts into nihilists.
And probably the listeners too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're out of the country today. So the setup's a bit different. We're in a big old room with lots of cushions in it, so the sound might be a little different.
Yeah, if it sounds echoey, that's why. If it sounds soft,
That's also why.
Yeah.
If it sounds anything else, that's on your end, not us.
That's ghosts.
Oh, there's the doorbell. That's spooky. The same moment you mentioned ghosts, the doorbell goes, because everyone knows only ghosts ring doorbells.
Well, they're so polite. They're not just going to barge in. What's your favorite Halloween film?
Is Coraline a Halloween film?
I would say yeah,
I would
it's spooky.
say it's pretty spooky.
It's spooky.
I'm going to go with Coraline.
Coraline is very spooky.
I like that film a lot. It's good. I
That
have
was
it on
like,
DVD.
yeah, that was like a film that originally wasn't for kids, but then they ended up just kind of
Yes.
making it more for kids, and so that's why it's...
What did I was reading recently about something that was apparently just not originally going to... Oh, yeah, it was the Scooby-Doo film, the James Gunn Scooby-Doo film.
Yeah.
Apparently the original script for that was like 15 plus.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so...
I'd love one of those. Even just to see what it was like, you know?
Elliot just knocked the table the microphone's on, so that's what that weird noise was.
No, it was ghosts.
Yeah, so Elliot, what's been going on? We watched Daredevil. We finished Daredevil season 3.
Yeah, I plowed through the first 6 episodes, and then I thought, how many are left? And I was like, oh, literally more than double.
Yeah, we're back to 13 season episodes.
It was 14 this one, wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah, I think it was 14 episodes.
Which, to be honest, this is a really good season.
Oh,
However,
yeah.
there's like 2 episodes that just don't need to be in there.
Yeah, for sure. So kind of, I think it was like with most of these shows, it was a bit too long.
Yeah.
That kind of...
I think Iron Fist season 2 hit the sweet spot with 10 episodes.
Yeah, I think that was just about right.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, it dragged on a bit, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's
good.
good.
Fisk is back in a big way.
He's a big guy.
He's a big guy, and he's back in a big way. And then we also have Bullseye.
Yeah.
Who I loved as a character. I really enjoyed him as a...
But he didn't get his own suit.
No, I would have liked at the end if Daredevil had been like, okay, the red suit has been marred, so I'm going to make it like black. You know, because he has his black and red suit sometimes.
Yeah.
I would have liked if he'd done that, or if he'd gotten another suit or something, and so Bullseye made his blue and put the logo on his forehead or something.
Speaking of suits, though, Wilson Fisk got his white suit, and that's the only suit I care about.
Yeah, he's got. It shows his suit room, and it's just full of white suits.
Yeah.
And near the end of it, he has like a normal suit fabric one, which is white. But at the start, it's all what you call it, like silk.
Yeah.
And I really don't like it. It kind of...
No, but it's right for Kingpin, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, it's right for Kingpin, but it's like I'd never wear anything like that. It just kind of it glistens, and I'm kind of off put by it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Bullseye, when he was a kid, wore a hat which had the Bullseye logo. And at the end...
Yeah, that was weird. And it was in his eye at the end, wasn't it?
It was
what
like
was that about?
A reflection of like a circle on the floor made his eyes into the Bullseye logo.
That looked a little bit too early 2000s film for me, I thought. I was a bit like, okay. But also, it's cool that we're potentially getting like vibranium Bullseye. Like that's cool.
Yeah, it was like.
Oh, it's adamantium in the comics, is it? It's vibranium or adamantium. I forget.
I think it's adamantium.
Right.
And that's what makes him go crazy.
Because the dude who, well, I mean, he's already crazy in the show, isn't he?
Yeah.
But the dude who goes on to run Weapon X program, which is what gives Wolverine his adamantium skeleton, worked on Bullseye first.
Yeah.
So I presume that's who that guy was.
Yeah. And in the Netflix show, it's called Corrigan Iron.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's not.
That also sounds fictional.
Yeah, it's also not real, I'm sure, but
okay.
It's not one of the big two that you kind of associate with Marvel.
Pretty cool though. Maybe they'll find some kind of way in which to make Corrigan Iron like a component of vibranium or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, he needs it on his back because Fisk. There's this really cool fight at the end where Daredevil wants to kill Fisk, Bullseye wants to kill Fisk wants to kill both of them, but he also wants to protect his wife.
And Vanessa suddenly wants everyone dead.
Yeah, so Fisk has taken a lot of hits, but then he just picks up Bullseye kind of horizontally and slams him into a wall and just paralyzes him.
His spine is just gone.
Destroyed. And I was like, why didn't you do that at the start, Wilson?
Because, you know, he's a gentleman who wouldn't want anyone to get hurt for no reason.
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I understand the character pretty damn well.
Do you remember when he trapped the guy's head in the door and just kicked it off?
Oh, yeah. That was something else.
This season, if anything, made me want to watch the first season of Daredevil so much.
Fisk is just one of the best characters in all of the MCU, and pretty damn good. But Elliot, there's been a lot of praise for this season online. Let's talk a little bit about things that we didn't like about this.
There was an episode all about Karen's backstory.
Yeah, that was. It wasn't a bad episode.
No.
It was interesting and it was well shot, but it just really broke the flow of the whole season so much. It broke the
flow. It didn't really. It kind of felt like almost like a different show a little bit to me.
Yeah.
And so,
every time you go outside of New York, it feels wrong, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. I don't know. Daredevil made some decisions in it which I thought were just really dumb.
Right.
Because he decides, hey, I'm not going to pretend to be blind anymore, but I'm going to still keep being Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
So which everyone thinks is blind.
It felt a bit like they patched up that kind of I'm leaving Matt Murdock behind thing towards the end of the season, which he felt so like strongly about that it felt a little bit soft to go back on it, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it was just the whole point was he was kind of, he wasn't in his best state of mind, but he made some decisions which I just kind of, I didn't get why he did them, you know?
I did not care about Karen or Foggy really going into this series, and I feel like I actually came out of it liking them more than I did previously.
Foggy was good because he took a lead.
Yeah, he did. Like, the previous seasons, they were fine. Karen was annoying sometimes. Foggy, I felt like in season 1 particularly, Foggy was not impressive as an actor and really kind of stood out compared to the others.
Yeah, but he really stepped up his game this.
He did. He was a big improvement. And Karen I liked more also. But I think kind of that hangover of not really caring about her in the first 2 seasons made me kind of, when it came to her episode, which it's just titled Karen, isn't it? Yeah. When we got to that, I was like, I don't care about her being a journalist. Like, as much as I liked her more this season, I don't care about that guy with the beard, and I don't care about the journalism.
Yeah.
It's just every story, he's like, the story's going to turn into a different story, and she's like, no, I gotta do the thing, and he's like, no, you gotta do this instead, and she's like, no, and then at the end, it's like, and the story turned into something else. Yeah,
and at the end of was it in this season 2 when she really became a journalist, and she starts writing her piece, and I'm just listening to her. Like, this isn't a good story.
No, the thing she reads out at the end of season 2
like,
about the Punisher.
We're all a hero.
It's embarrassing. It's cringy, really. Yeah. It's
Ellison, hire someone better. Everyone else is in like a little cubicle, and she's got a whole office to herself.
She's got a whole office, and she doesn't do a single thing that you tell her to.
Yeah, come on, man. And then you invite her out to dinner.
Something I didn't like, and just for the record, like I really like this series, but everyone's talked about the good stuff, so let's unpack some of the bad. Yeah. Vanessa turns back up, and she's kind of like, I'm not sure about this, which I thought was really great, but then like an episode later they get married, and you're like, what?
Yeah, I think what happened was she came back and she felt, because he kind of in his head had this image for what it was going to be like when he was out of prison. He got Vanessa back, and he really, this whole season was him trying to build that back up.
Yeah.
But then it was like he had pictures on the wall, like he had the perfect omelet, and it was kind of like he slotted her in, and she felt like she was just another piece.
No, I think that was cool. I just think that it then brushed over so fast.
I think they should have maybe spent another episode, especially if you've got 14 episodes, spend another episode.
It's a long season.
Where she's got still cut that kind of...
You know, I kept feeling like Foggy's brother was going to be something, and then he just really wasn't, really.
Yeah, we got... Gladiator came back in. Gladiator...
and then died.
Did he die?
Yeah, he was in the fridge at the end, wasn't he? The freezer.
Man, was he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't realize. But he had his t-shirt on.
He did in season 2 as well, I think.
Oh, I didn't.
Or maybe season 1.
I think he was only in season 1. I don't think he was in season 2.
I feel like he was in season 2.
Only for a short bit, surely.
Anyway, when he went to get his red suit from him originally, he said, like, look, I've got my own suit, and he had it on underneath a shirt, and he kind of shows the top of it.
Yeah.
And then like he says, you want to see? And he's like, I'm good.
I'm blind.
Yeah. There was one line in the season somewhere about, like, you'll see Matt, and there was no joke made, and I was like, he should have been like, no, I'm blind. And it's kind of low-hanging fruit, but come on, you'd laugh.
What I didn't like was, in this season especially, he's really just not blind.
No, I suppose so.
And I think in the comics, it's a lot more like his other senses are so good that he's able to get through life.
Yeah.
But in the show, it's like he just sees everything and it's red.
Yeah,
and so he's not actually blind, and I think that kind of takes away a little bit from the character.
At some stage he read something on a piece of paper because he could like feel the indentations on it or whatever.
Yeah.
It was a bit too much.
It was. I think I like how you can have him flipping and then in the next scene he bumps into a chair. Or something, you know. I like having him. I like that he has that setback because that kind of sets him apart a bit. Whereas if he's just got sight but it's red, then Well, in conclusion, I think good season. Check it out. It's a shame that this is all just going to be discarded anyway. Yeah.
And speaking of which, I actually recorded a video this week which kind of explains a little bit on what we know is happening at Netflix and then my thoughts about the future of it as well. So you can check that out if you want. It's as informative as I could make it.
It's informative. It's pretty short if you just want a quick
it's
explanation.
like 9 minutes or something.
Yeah,
so that's worth your while checking out. Yeah. It's called What's Happening at Netflix or something to that regard.
You'll find it. It's the shortest video on our
yeah, by quite some way.
Yeah.
Anyway, Elliot, in the coming weeks we've got Aquaman and Bumblebee releasing, and we were just talking about how the box office predictions for both of these are like 200 million less.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't turn my nose up at 200 million, but when you've made a film that obviously costs as much as these...
Yeah, these films are costing like minimum 150 million at a stretch, and generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, for a blockbuster film like one of these, you have to spend your budget again on marketing also.
Yeah.
So you're looking 300 million just to break even. So it's that December 11th, I think, weekend slot, which is a very covetable one, and it's previously been held by like the Hobbit films and some of the Harry Potter stuff came out then. But this year we've got fantastic Grindelwald. Where to find him?
Where is he? Maybe in the case, maybe not.
This time, it's Hitler.
Yeah.
So we've got that coming out. We've got Aquaman, we've got Bumblebee, and we've got Mortal Engines.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting about that.
They're all coming out in like the space of a week, and that's going to divide a lot of people. Plus, you've got the Grinch film coming out, I think, a week before. But that's going to
Benedict Cumberbatch.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
But that's going to be a slow burner. Like that's going to sell tickets throughout all of the holiday period.
Yeah. So it's kind of
kids are going to be more drawn towards that than they are Transformers, probably.
Yeah. It seems like everything is kind of. It's not big enough to steal the show. It's just big enough to take something out of everyone else's pocket.
Exactly. You know? And something like Aquaman and Bumblebee don't have like completely different demographics either.
Yeah.
But not everyone, especially with it being the Christmas and holiday period, not everyone's going to be able to afford to see both of them.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to have the time. There's not going to be...
Not everyone's going to have the interest, I don't think.
I agree. And not like with all those films releasing at similar times, they're not going to have as many screens as they would at a different time of year, you know?
Yeah, so that's going to burn it out as well.
It's a rough... Oh, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse as well.
Oh,
that could very well outsell Aquaman, I think.
Yeah, now that's something that, if I'm going to watch anything, that's the one I want to watch the most.
Out of all of these films, that one looks the prettiest by quite some way. It looks absolutely gorgeous.
That film, I like the animation is... It's
now,
really
it's Sony, so the story could be absolute garbage.
Oh, it could be, but visually, it's gonna look nice.
So, I mean, I think that's definitely the one that I'd put my money into.
Yeah. And we'll also go see Aquaman.
Yeah, we'll see it just for the sake of being able to review it and stuff.
And we do comic books, so it's
I really like Aquaman, but I'm not yet sold on the Aquaman in this DC Zack Snyder universe.
They're trying to kind of bring him back a little bit, back into the... Because they made him very dark and edgy, and now they're trying to undo all that they've done.
Yeah.
So it looks like he's going to have
It feels a bit desperate, though, as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. He's got that kind of golden green suit, but it's also the Jason Momoa tattooed up long hair.
Yeah, well, they get the green and gold suit back, but there's like... I looked at some of the toy releases, because often you find out a lot about the films from the toys that are available to it. Like, for instance, I could deduce a lot about the previous 2 Star Wars films based on what toys they put out, really. Which sounds kind of sad when I put it like that, but I don't know, for me, just these kind of blockbuster, comic booky type films in general, half of the fun is the speculation about them.
Yeah.
And there's loads and loads of Aquaman toys which are coming to stores, but there's very few of the golden green suit. Green, yeah. So I imagine it's something he'll either get for like one scene as it like an Easter egg, or he'll get it right at the end for future films. I think he'll probably
get it right at the end.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Speaking of toys... I saw we were just shopping like an hour ago or something, and I saw it wasn't even like it was just one of them. There was half a row was just Megatron masks.
Oh, really?
From like not the upcoming Bumblebee, like the older Michael Bay Transformers films, and that was just a weird thing to...
Was it like a bargain aisle or something?
No, it was just like the toy aisle. There was just a lot of Megatron masks.
Maybe Megatron's really popular.
I don't know.
Do we have any returning... I don't know that much about the Transformers films, honestly, and like any channels that I've seen on YouTube that are somewhat similar to ours and talk about pop culture, these kind of films, they're going big on like the Bumblebee analysis and stuff like that, but Transformers was never particularly important to me growing up. I don't know about you, but I didn't care that much. I had an Optimus Prime toy, and I had one that could turn into a jet or... What was the other thing?
A truck.
No, it wasn't a truck. It was a jet or something else. I can't even remember. But that's how little it meant to me. At some stage, I had a T-shirt as well, which I think you now have.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because it's quite
cartoon. Yeah, it is vintagey. I have the T-shirt.
And I know it was definitely played some part in our lives, because I remember when I was quite young, we would play together. And I would always be Bumblebee, and you'd be Optimus Prime.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have no recollection of that at all.
This is like, I've got like one memory of it. So like,
okay.
It was...
So we'd always do it one time.
No. Like, so I've got the one memory of it being a thing.
I remember thinking that Bumblebee was cool, and that was about all.
Bumblebee was always my favorite.
Is Bumblebee like the Luigi of the Transformers world, where the little brother always gets Bumblebee? I think I like Bumblebee more than Optimus Prime, though.
Yeah. Well, you were saying characters coming back or something, was it?
Yeah, so I don't know much about these films, but do you think that we're going to get many characters from the Michael Bay films in this one?
Do you mean characters as in human characters, or...
No, like Transformers.
Transformers. We're getting...
Is Optimus Prime going to be in this?
Optimus Prime is in it, yeah. He looks a lot like the cartoon one. He's very squared off.
More vintagey.
Yeah, Bumblebee, Starscream, or Star...
Is Starscream a jet?
Yeah, Starscream's a jet.
Okay.
We've got a helicopter dude. I can't remember his name. Hey, listen, there's probably a video. Go check out a different video.
Yeah, go watch someone else's. Moving on.
Yeah, but they're kind of like the famous ones anyway.
Okay.
Starscream.
And are they returning voice actors and stuff?
No, because I think this is kind of going to that. They're trying to go for like a Hasbro extended universe. So it'll be like G.I. Joe, Transformers.
Oh, right, yeah.
That kind of thing.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, if you guys haven't seen the series The Toys That Made Us on Netflix, go check that out, because it's fascinating.
It's really
and you can watch the ones on Transformers, G.I. Joe, Barbie, those kind of things, and how they tie in together, and super, super interesting. Check that out.
Yeah, so I think that's what they're going for. John Cena is in this film. He's like the human villain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and like he's playing it as it's like a serious role, you know.
Haley Steinfeld
Steinfeld sounds right.
Steinfeld is the main actress in this.
Yeah.
And she's also voicing Spider-Gwen, isn't she?
Oh,
so
yeah?
that'll be a good week for her.
Yeah, for sure.
Her family's eating good this Christmas.
But apparently, some people think he might be leading. He might also be in the G.I. Joe films.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so he'll be like a character.
So do you think... So I don't understand the canon very well, but do you think canonically that this is going to be separate from the Michael Bay films?
Definitely, yeah. This is a different... It's
so
a
there's
different
no carryover
No,
at all?
it's a different Bumblebee. It's a different Optimus Prime. It's a different story.
See, my understanding was that this was like a prequel that they'd set as far removed as they could so that it would be like feel like its own thing. Mm-hmm. But I thought that they were talking about rebooting like after this.
Yeah, that's what I think the original plan was.
This could be a soft reboot, you reckon?
Yeah, this is like a soft, because I think what it's going to do is it's going to definitely retcon a lot of things. I don't think they're definitely going to
they already do that, right?
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to be definitely like, this is, a completely different thing. They're not going to go out of their way to make it seem as different as possible, I don't think. But it's going to definitely retcon a lot of things.
It's super interesting.
So that they can... Yeah, I don't think they want to go like, oh, that's completely over.
How many Transformers films are there now?
I think there's 4 or 5.
There's got to be at least 5.
Yeah, I think we'll go with 5.
I remember from the Transformers cartoon that at one stage there was a whole planet that was a Transformer.
Yes.
It was called something.
It sure was.
But then I haven't seen the film, but in
the most
recent or the second most recent,
they said that Earth
was the Transformer.
Yeah.
So is that still is that going to still be a thing in Bumblebee?
No. Like,
okay.
Because they added so much things to the Michael Bay films that just were never a part of what Transformers is. Like there was Transformers that could turn into vending machines, you know?
Yeah.
Where it was only ever cars. There, like Transformers would just change what vehicle they were. You know, they'd scan a different yellow car and it could be any yellow car. That's not what the Transformers kind of lore is. It's always been quite...
Well, from what I recall of the cartoons, which I never watched at home, but sometimes they'd be on at my babysitter's house when I was really young. Didn't the Transformers come to Earth and they were like frozen for 1 million years or something? No?
I'm not familiar with that.
Anyway,
but
who cares?
No, who cares? but yeah, the kind of the Michael Bay ones brought in a lot of things. We're like, hey, wouldn't this be cool? Hey, wouldn't this be cool? That weren't a part of Transformers lore, and this one is trying to stick to just that. This one is more like...
That's probably a good idea because I know a lot of people really love the Transformers cartoons, and
I know a lot of people were upset.
They took some brave liberties with the cartoons as well. You know, they did some interesting things, and like the killing Optimus Prime in the movie and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's cool. All right, let's move on to our next section. So guys, Halloween is coming up. We're talking about spooky movies. We did a little bit last week. So I've got my crap character of the week, and I've got a pitch for a TV show in the Marvel Universe as well today.
And are they both spooky?
They're both spooky.
Oh, great.
Spooky related. So there's two kinds of spooky. One is more like your traditional horror.
Yeah.
Which is like the pitch.
Supernatural?
Supernatural type stuff.
Yeah.
And the other one is more like a meta comedy horror.
Okay.
So have you seen the Evil Dead films?
No.
Okay, so the Evil Dead, the first one was like a really super low budget, house in the woods, zombies, gross, gory type film. The Evil Dead 2 is a sequel, kind of, but it's not really. It's effectively, they got a bigger budget, they went back and remade the film, they made fun of what was bad about the first one.
Okay, yeah.
And that kind of spiraled into a genre of its own. And there's another kind of example of the kind of self-aware horror that I kind of... my crap character is going to be is Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which I don't know if you've seen, is I don't know, I think it's late 80s, early 90s, really, really campy horror where aliens come to Earth and their UFO is like a giant circus tent and they're all like horrid looking clowns.
Okay.
And they shoot people and then they keep them in cocoons made of cotton candy and it's, it's really silly.
So it kind of plays on a lot of tropes but makes them sillier.
Yeah. So the crap character of the week is probably the biggest character that we've had on this so far. And they're not like out and out a bad character. Yeah. They're just silly.
Yeah.
So this character is called Slapstick.
Okay.
And basically, so he's early 90s. I think it's in 92, which I've realized, like, 92 is, like, the period where nearly all the stuff I talk about is from.
Yeah.
Like, we talked about Venom and Carnage and stuff recently. That's all, like, 92 kind of based.
We had Extreme.
Extreme 92.
Yeah.
But this is kind of on the back of, like, the Deadpool comedy, so it's a bit more meta and stuff like that. So his name is Slapstick.
Yeah.
So he's just a dude who's in school and he's like a class clown type guy. So it's like the opposite of the kind of Peter Parker Flash Thompson dynamic where you've got like your nerdy guy and then you've got a bully. Yeah. This guy's like a class clown, and the bad guy in the story is a guy who's just trying to like learn, just trying to go to school. He's just trying to get on with stuff.
He's the Peter Parker of the class.
Yeah, but not even. He's not even like a smart kid. He's just like, let us work. And like the guy, I forget his name. Oh, I should know this. I should have written it down. He's Steven something. He's like, put slurry in the school lunches, and then he's like, I stopped you doing that. And he's like, don't be such a drip and stuff. And you're like, okay. So, and the bad guy, I say bad guy, he's just like an antagonistic school.
Yeah, he's
kid.
An antagonist, he's not like a villain, if that makes sense.
Yeah. He's just like,
he's just a guy.
He's just a kid who wants to go to school. There's like a circus on, and he's like, no, I'd rather go to the Young Republicans rally and stuff. And you're like, I hate this guy. So he's in school. He's got a friend who likes comic books, and he's like, hey, you want to do this? And the guy's like, no, I got to get the new issue of Superman or whatever. And this whole series really makes fun of DC characters particularly. It actually, like, the first page.
And is it a Marvel?
Yeah, it's a Marvel property, and it's got other Marvel characters in it as well. Yeah. There's only 4 issues of Slapstick, so he begins with just like straight up his own new issue, his new series. It starts with, it's like on a world, and then it shows a planet. It's like Krypton, the height of technology and civilization. This is where our story, and then it like explodes, and it's like, well, so much for them. Our story takes place in New England. And you're like, okay, so Superman's family are dead. That's just how they started, basically.
Did I ever tell you about the time that Rocket Raccoon and Groot killed Superman?
Oh yeah, you did tell me. I think you talked about that on the podcast. No,
did I?
Maybe it was one of the test ones.
I think it was one of the test ones. Yeah, they stop on a planet which is obviously Krypton. They're like, okay, it's our last chance to save our son. We're gonna put him on this shuttle, and he'll get to Earth and he'll be safe. And then Groot and Rocket Raccoon jump, and they're like, "We'll bring it back, we promise." And then the planet explodes, so Superman dies.
Well, I wonder, has Krypton been blown up more times in Marvel than it has in DC?
Indeed, probably.
So yeah, that's kind of the tone that the whole thing goes with. But it is kind of horrific as well, and it's like psychedelic and colorful and weird.
Yeah.
So he's coming out of school. He's like, "Oh, that drippy's ruined my day. I was trying to kill a person," and he's like, "You can't do that." And then this like horrid clown-looking dude is there, and he's like, "Come to the circus,
to the carnival."
And he's like, "This is perfect." And then there's a girl that he wants to go with, and then the young Republican guy is going with her, and he's like, "I'm gonna do a big old joke on him,
a big prank. I'll get him."
And it's a parody almost of like the standard superhero origin as well. Mm-hmm. So he goes to this circus festival fair type thing, and it's very obviously kind of not real. Like the clowns are aliens, and like it's there's portals and stuff like that, and helter skelters, and it just looks scary.
Yeah, it's not
real.
The reader is like, okay, but something's up.
He's like, I'm gonna pull a prank on that damn guy, and he dresses up as a clown. So he's got like the big white Mickey Mouse gloves, and he's got like a silly hat on, and like the kind of the stripy pinstripe clothes and stuff, and the face paint.
Yeah. Does he have a nose?
Oh, probably. Yeah. Oh, I can't remember.
Love me a clown nose.
So. Do you remember in Yu-Gi-Oh! Maximilian Pegasus had like his like kind of weird clowny world type stuff, tunes, and it's kind of like that. Yeah. Basically. So he's there, he follows these people, and he sees these the girl and the drip guy getting like basically bundled into a portal, and the portal's in like the mouth of a clown. He goes through like a mirror type plate, you know, it's like funny mirrors and what have you.
Yeah, that distorts your body or whatever.
He goes through there, and then there's like a giant clown. You know, it's like an entrance to a tent.
Yeah, I get you.
But it's a portal in it.
Okay.
And the clown alien things are just bundling people into the portal dimension.
Yeah.
So he's like, hey, I'm actually going to do something good, and I'm going to dive in and stop him. So he dives in just like the second that the portal closes.
Okay.
And as a result, he ends up in Dimension X, which is the dimension that the clowns are going to.
Okay.
But he's now fully an animated cartoon.
Okay.
And everyone else in there they're clowns, but they're alien-looking clown things, but they look normal, they look natural.
So,
but he's becomes a new state of matter, and is fully a cartoon. So he's got all of like your Looney Tune type dimensions.
Okay, so he can run off a cliff.
He can run off a cliff and
legs.
keep going, and he can, like, if someone's chasing him, he'll paint a tunnel onto a wall, and they'll run into it. So that's his deal, is like he ends up in Dimension X. So basically all of the different worlds in Marvel, it's like Earth 616 is the main continuity, and then 3201 is the ultimate universe, and whatever. So X is like it doesn't really it exists beside these, I suppose.
Okay, yeah.
And it's all weird and psychedelic in there, surrealist, and it's run by this guy, and basically he's like, I can control everyone's minds, and because I can control their state of perception, I can control what I want. So he lives in like a floating castle.
Okay.
And he's like, everyone believes that it floats, so it does. Because he can control their minds or something.
Right.
Anyway, he goes in and he meets the scientist guy. He's like, hey, you're a new state of matter, and here's all gadgets and stuff.
Okay.
And he's like, you gotta be a hero and all this kind of thing. And then he immediately just dies from a heart attack because he says the
scientist?
The scientist. Okay. He's like, oh, I've overeaten fast food.
What?
And there's just another clown playing a violin while he dies in the guy's in Slapstick's arms.
Okay.
And he's like, no, I'll avenge you or whatever. And it's like, you just met the guy. So he like runs off to kill the guy who owns the dimension or something.
Of course, because he was feeding everyone fast food.
Yeah, and then the guy just like sits up and he's like, that works every time. And you're like, but why? Why have you done this when there's no reason?
What?
There's no reason at all. But it's just like, it just dismantles the mentor cliche every time. He's like, you know, I'm expecting you to give me my father's lightsaber and stuff like that. But he gives him the gloves, and it means that he can like control the state of matter and reappear as he used to and stuff, so he can still go to school.
Okay,
but it's like in the gloves or something, and he's got like a big mallet, like a big Harley Quinn mallet.
Yeah.
But he can also basically, like, you know, a video game, you've got a weapon and then it's like you put it away and you don't know where it goes, but
it just goes.
Yeah, and then you can take it out whenever you want. But he can do that as well.
Yeah. I love in games when they try to like explain that away.
Yeah.
Like I know in D&D there's this item called like the handy haversack.
Right.
Where it's, you know, like what a bag of holding is. It's like a bag that's got a big. It's like a pocket that's got a room in, slightly smaller room in it, and it's just big enough to fit a weapon in. So you've got a pocket that you can pull a weapon out of.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's a similar idea then.
Yeah.
So he meets. Anyway, then he kills the guy and he goes back to the dimension. Whatever. That's not the best part of the story. But he comes back, and then his friend, who's like super into comics, is like, "Whoa, that sounds like you just had an origin." And he's like, "Yeah, I do."
So it's quite meta then.
It is meta, but it is also like horrific. Like these clowns are like killing people, and you know, he kind of has like somewhat of an existential crisis as well, because he's like, "I'm a cartoon in the real world."
That's gonna do some stuff.
It's funny, but it's also like pretty horrible, I think. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, it sounds like you had an origin. You need a superhero name. And he's like, okay, I'll be Captain Clown. And he's like, no, that's dumb. And he's like, no, I'll be the Joker. And then he's like, I think that's taken.
Okay.
And then he's like, I'll be the Jester. And then he's like, that's dumb and taken. So then he's like, I'll go with Slapstick or whatever.
Yeah.
Great. So that's his like origin out the way, and his abilities. It's pretty silly, but yeah, also kind of messed up. Yeah. But let's just change direction for a second. You've read a Punisher comic before, or a comic in which the Punisher appears?
Oh, yeah,
everything is done through like journal entries.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, instead of a thought or him talking to himself like other things, like journal entry 3,200 and whatever, like war is hell.
Yeah.
So you see a character who you immediately think is the Punisher.
Okay.
He's dressed in the black suit. He's in an open top Jeep with loads of guns stacked in there and stuff. And he's got the journal entry, which says, basically, war is hell. Like that weekend in Seattle with Ethel, her pet baboon, and the rubber chicken suit. But I don't want to think about that right now.
Okay.
And then he's just like driving off into the sunset, and that's the end of the issue. And then Slapstick's there at the end of the issue, and he's like, grab the next issue, hurry before we get cancelled.
Okay.
And you're like, damn, they knew that this was not going anywhere immediately. So this next issue, this dude is a Punisher knockoff. He's dressed exactly like him. Instead of the skull on his chest, he's got like an atomic explosion.
Okay.
And he's called the Overkiller.
Right.
And I think his origin story is there was a TV show about the X-Men, like in the in Marvel universe.
Yeah. Man, they love just
Yeah.
having the X-Men be the X-Men in the X-Men.
And I think he missed an episode of the X-Men TV show.
Okay.
And as a result, he's like, I'm going to kill all mutants.
What?
He's
that's why he's called Overkill. Cause...
Yeah, basically. Oh, something I forgot to mention as well is when Slapstick basically got caught between the dimensions and whatever, it cuts to like every cosmic being and anyone with any kind of higher power being like, what the hell is going on? Like, I've sensed a great disturbance. So it's like Doctor Strange, but like, by the power of Ashanti, and Peter's spider sense goes off, and the Watcher is like, I've never felt the need to interfere more than I do now, and all this kind of thing. And I just thought it was kind of funny. It'd be funny if they made this into like a film, which they wouldn't, but if they did, it'd be funny to have just like a cameo of each of those guys like, this is such an important event. Anyway, back to it though. So he chases Slapstick down to a mall, like a strip mall, where I guess he's trying to talk to that girl again. Then he starts using his powers. He puts on the gloves and whatever. He's like, I'm the cartoon man. And then he's like, I can change my costume and stuff. So he puts on a Batman costume.
Okay.
And he's like, it's me, the skulker arounder. And the guy's like, what? And he's like, I'm the dark, gritty, realistic avenger of evil.
Okay.
And also, every time the Overkiller guy shoots him or whatever, he like it just leaves a hole in him, and he's like fine, you know.
Yeah.
Or he gets blown up with a rocket, and his face goes all like ashy.
Black, and his hair's
he's
spiky,
fine.
Yeah. So real Tom and Jerry, and then like kind of Roadrunner Wile E.
Exactly, it's really Looney Tunes, but like it's obviously still painful for him. He's like, this is awful.
Okay.
And then Peter Parker's Spider-Man shows up because he and MJ are in the mall.
Yeah.
But MJ is really funny as well because she's like super like Barbie, like kind of like out there, just like, oh, I love shopping. It's the only kind of retail for a girl. And Peter's like, women, eh?
Okay.
But then while fighting the Overkiller, he gets Peter's camera and just takes like a whole roll of film of ugly selfies. Okay. So Peter then goes home. Because he webs his camera up so he can sell pictures to Bugle. So then he goes home and develops the photo, and they're all just like cartoon faces, and he's like, no! Like screaming to the heavens. Anyway,
Jameson will hate this.
They beat the Overkiller.
Yeah.
Then the remaining two issues are about, you'll love this.
Okay.
It's about a homeless man who gets caught up in an explosion of like underground something or other.
Yeah.
He gets like atomic abilities. He can just cause nuclear explosions.
Yeah.
But he calls himself the neutron bomb.
What?
So like the neutron bomb, but he's a homeless man.
Oh man.
And his whole thing is like he's just walking around and he's like, can I have 10 cents for a cup of coffee? And everyone's like, no. And then he gets angry and does something bad. And then
What?
And then he goes up to the next person. He's like, can I have 20 cents for a cup of coffee? And they're like, no, when he gets mad and blows something up. But he just keeps escalating. So he's like, can I have $100 for a cup of coffee? And then like eventually he reaches like 1 million and blows up like all of New York and stuff. He's like, that's his only characteristic, is he wants a cup of coffee. And then Slapstick eventually beats like every Avenger turns up to slow him down and stop him. And they're like, he's like, I know what to do. We just get him a cup of coffee. And they're like, no, we got to kill him.
Okay.
So he like runs off and gives him a cup of coffee. And
he's fine.
Fine, yeah.
That's all he wanted. He just wanted that cup of coffee.
but I just thought it was hilarious, and it's full of references. There's literally a whole panel of him not wanting to eat the dinner his parents have made, which is like an exact image reference to Calvin and Hobbes when he's like, it's monkey brains or whatever, which is cute. And there's loads of weird like meta jokes as well. He meets Ghost Rider, and everyone's just like, it's Ghost Rider. But then Slapstick's the only realistic one. He's like, this guy's head is on fire, like tries putting it out, which is funny. And he jokes about how he's like muscly looking. He's like, maybe we can get Arnie to play me in the movies and stuff like that, or like when they make a movie adaptation and stuff. And at one stage, the girl in the class that he likes falls in love with Slapstick instead of him, and then he goes home and he's like, nice, I did it. And then his friend is like, you realize that Slapstick has no organs because he's a cartoon? And then he just goes like, no! He's like, what is... Okay.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. It's really dumb. But it was really funny as well. And I did have someone written down for like, this is who I'd have to play them, but now I forget.
Okay, well...
Oh, no, actually, the guy's meant to be like 15, 16.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't be the age yet, but you know that kid Jacob Tremblay who was in Room, and he was in... the new Predator movie, and he was in one called Wonder with Owen Wilson in it. He's like 12 or so.
Yeah, so when you think he's a bit older?
Like, if this was made, 3 years from now, it takes a while to get a script out and stuff like that, I'd have him in for it, because I think he's got, like, a pretty good sense of humor and stuff, and he's talked in interviews before about how he likes comic books and Star Wars and stuff, and I think that kind of having someone who knew about those things be like the kind of...
Be the one who...
So, so you'd have a few shots of him, but then the rest of the time it would be like cartoon.
Yeah, he'd probably voice it or
whatever. But I think it'd be really funny. It'd be a funny like solo entry, right? Where if they made it into a film, I'd want like other characters to cameo in it, but I wouldn't want them to be in continuity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it would be like a pocket dimension.
Yeah,
type.
I mean, like you can't have the current MJ being like, I love shopping.
No, exactly. No, but like it is kind of like horrid and like a terrifying character, and like him with the mallet is scary looking and stuff.
Yeah. Do you have a picture of him to show me?
I can pull one up now.
Because the listener will have like, he'll be up there with the...
He's not a crap character, you know, but the film would be crap, and it's just such a stupid idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's a picture of him with Ghost Rider.
No, he is scary looking.
He really is, yeah. He's appeared in like a few things more recently as well. He was in like one of the Civil War like spin-offs and stuff, and it's just like horrific because everyone's like, how the hell are you a cartoon? And he's like, please, I don't know.
Please don't ask.
I thought that'd be really funny though. It'd be a really cool kind of like... I'd like it to explore as well, like the more grim side of it also, and
it reminds me
just the idea of like that psychedelic clown world existing, even though it's like not a huge part of the story. You can make it into it in the film, but like just that existing would be pretty terrifying. Scary, and just the idea of like creepy carnivals is horrid also.
People hate clowns.
Yeah, they do, right?
He reminds me a little bit of what's that Superman character, Mr. Mixapicalix?
I beg your pardon?
Yeah,
bless you.
That's the joke. He's got this dumb name, and the only way his only weakness is if he says his name backwards.
Okay.
Which is Plixadicalix or something.
Okay.
But basically, he's like cartoony. His powers are all like he can just bend reality, but he only does it in dumb ways.
Yeah.
And he's a rascal with no respect for Superman. And so Superman always just has to somehow try and get him to say his name backwards, and then he'll be like banished to the negative zone or whatever.
Yikes!
But like, there's no way to stop him, you know, because he's a cartoon character.
Yeah.
Like Superman crushes him, and he's
like
just turned into a pancake, and he's like, "Uh-oh, you got me."
I like the idea just of a cartoon character existing in the real world, but like normal physics and stuff not applying to them. I think that'd be fun.
It would be fun,
and I think that it would be able to be meta in a way that.
Almost a little bit Who
Framed Roger Rabbit? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, honestly, like that, but more horror-y, like Killer Clowns from Outer Space or Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Which are both really good horror films, and considering we're talking a bit about horror films, check them out.
No, I really like the idea of he gets hit by a car and he's just fine.
Yeah, he's flat for a while, and he's like, but he's also like, he felt that like he was a person.
Or, you know, he gets scared and there's a big trumpet noise and everyone's like, where did that come from?
Yeah, it'd be funny, right?
Yeah,
it'd be like kind of like not as adult as Deadpool.
Yeah,
because that gets a bit old, doesn't it? You know, like you're a bit slapped around the face with that. Whereas this would be kind of like every joke would be more of like a one-off, like, you know, he gets scared and like his hair stands up and then he has to flatten it down and that kind of thing. Like it would be more like one-off, then it's done and we find a new joke rather than let's keep going back to saying the swear word.
Yeah, his eyes turn into hearts and pump out of his eyes.
Yeah. And putting him across from a character that's like the Punisher is so funny as well because of how, you know, different, how serious a character like that is. So yeah, cool. That's my idea for that.
Okay, yeah, I know, I really like that.
Yeah. So tell me, Elliot, what horror films do you like?
Besides Frankenweenie, none. They're too scary.
Oh, you don't watch much horror?
No, sometimes I watch them and sometimes I'm like,
nah.
What am I here for? I really want to watch Cloverfield because I've not seen that yet. But that one, that's one that like genuinely interests me.
Like the original Cloverfield.
The original one,
okay, yeah.
Because I think, like I do watch horror films sometimes, but I think some films which are horror films that don't really have a story and they don't really have like a unique idea. Yeah. I'm not really there. You know that. It's just being scary doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, I get you. They need to be good for other reasons as well.
Yeah.
I was talking to my friend about this the other day and how he said he finds a lot of horror films boring. Yeah. And I think that in film, obviously there are boring films, but half of the time or most of the time, let's say, when you watch a film and you're like, this is boring, it's not actually a boring film. It's just got like pacing issues. Yeah. And when you find a horror film boring, like literally a minute of bad pacing in a horror film can ruin the suspense of the whole thing. Of course, yeah. Because it's so important and pivotal to the plot that
because it's all about suspense.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think
more so than other films. I guess.
Definitely. I think an example of one that does it perfectly is It Follows, which I don't know if you've seen.
No, I've heard good.
That's a really cool film. It's an interesting, fresh concept and. The acting is really like weird and good. And, it's set at like a non-determined period of time, so there's like futuristic phones, but everything like TVs are black and white and
that's
like,
really cool.
I don't know, like the cars are like kind of 50s and looking, and you know, it's just like it's a mess of
and even that by itself is kind of unnerving because it leaves you with more questions than answers. I was a really big fan as a kid. I watched a lot of horror films as a kid because I did a film course when I was like 14 or so, and the guy who was teaching me at the time showed me like loads of not showed me them, but was like, watch this. So Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Evil Dead. I really loved the Nightmare on Elm Street films as well. And speaking of like meta horror, there's like 10 Nightmare on Elm Street films, I think. Yeah, and they get quite meta, don't they?
The first one was directed by Wes Craven, the famous horror director. But he did one called New Nightmare, which is about the shooting of the original film. Okay. But Freddy Krueger, the villain from the, you know, he's in your dreams and stuff, starts haunting and killing the people making the film.
Oh, wow,
and that's fascinating. That's such a weird, like, meta film. Like, literally, you can skip all of them. Some of them are pretty decent, I think. Yeah. There's one that's in a mental institution, which is horrid. Okay. But watch the first one and then watch New Nightmare, and it's Wes Craven's back for that one. I think it's the first one he did since the original, and it's just so interesting. Like, as a double feature bill.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of kind of like quite older ones. You know, I've seen Alien. And then kind of leading on from that, you've got like your Predator and whatever. So which kind of are less
they're action horror.
They're kind of action horror. But obviously Alien was amazing.
Brilliant. Yeah, it was one of the best.
That was one where I was watching it online. Yeah. And I'd get like 20 minutes into it, and then the website would stop working.
Oh, really?
So I tried 5 times to watch Alien, and like the first 20 minutes are all silence.
I'm fairly sure we have it on DVD.
Well, I thought we did, and I searched like the entire house.
No, maybe not. Maybe I took it with me when I went away.
I think you did, yeah, because I've got this distinct memory of seeing it in our DVD cupboard. Yeah. Like I know what the box looks like. Yeah, yeah. But then like we don't have a copy, which was really
That's
annoying.
Spooky in and of itself.
Well, it's not like a xenomorph is going to come into your house and move around your DVDs.
Why not? It's got a picture of an egg on the front. Maybe it's trying to protect its own.
Oh, yeah, damn, maybe.
You're right. I saw a film on Netflix not so long ago, which is Korean. It's called The Wailing, and I think the less said about that, the better, but
the
check that out.
Wailing
It's
as
really
in
scary.
ah, or the Wailing is in die, whale?
No, The Wailing is in ah.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I watched an awful Irish-made horror film called The Residents, I think.
Right.
Which starred the guy who played Filch.
Oh, yeah. The guy who played Filch, yeah.
That's
his name.
Discount Donald Gleeson and...
Discount Donald Gleeson is in his brother, who's also an actor?
No, he wasn't a Gleeson, but he was... Okay. He looked like Donald
ginger hair, awkward guy.
Yeah, Discount, what's she called? Saoirse Ronan.
Yeah. I know someone who looks weirdly like Saoirse Ronan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was about like...
Saoirse Ronan's a really good actress, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no. But it was kind of about these two... It was set in Ireland.
Yeah.
During, like, World War II?
Okay.
Or just at the end.
One of those wars that Ireland didn't really take part in that much.
Yeah, and that's like... One guy comes back from the war, and the whole town is like, look at this dude coming back.
I mean, there were a lot of Irish soldiers in World War II, but Ireland as a country didn't really partake.
Yeah, no, but everyone in the town kind of dislikes this guy, and he falls in love with... There's this sister and this brother who live in this big old manor house.
Of course.
And there's just this like nursery rhyme which gives them rules for what they can and cannot do. Like you can't be out past midnight, and you've got to be... You can't have people who don't live in the house into the house.
Okay. Nursery rhymes are a staple of horror films.
Yeah. But then she ends up breaking the rules because she falls in love with this other guy.
Damn.
And it turns out that there's like no bad implications. Which isn't even like part of the thing. Like she stays past midnight.
So what's the horror part of this?
The horror part of it is these ghosts keep coming out from like underneath the stairs at night time and just walking around the house.
That sounds pretty spooky.
It's kind of like...
Yo, the house that we're in, have you seen the basement?
No.
Yeah, it's pretty spooky.
Okay.
I went down there, my brother was showing it to me, and then he was like, go on in there, and I was like, he's gonna pull something, isn't he? And then he turned around when I went past him, and I was like, he's gonna run upstairs and turn the lights off and lock the door. Mm-hmm. And I was like, don't run up there and turn the lights off and lock the door, and that's exactly what he did. And then he was like, help me set up the PlayStation. I was like, no.
No way. But she like falls asleep in the bath. And
it's a real danger.
Yeah. And she wakes up and it's like past midnight. She's like, oh no. And then the ghost just puts an eel in her bath. And she's like, oh no, that kind of spooked me. But yeah, it turns out it's all about like incest and like...
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to watch it.
No, and I was like, this is... Nothing,
come on, Ireland, you're better than this.
Nothing. At the end, like she just jumps into a lake for no reason.
Is she fine?
No, she dies.
Oh,
she
thought she'd just get out and like dry her hair off.
No, she's like, oh no, I can't handle ghosts. There's one cool scene where because they come out from this like trapdoor, and every time it opens, like a drip of water falls upward from
gravity.
Well, falls upward, and then like the ghosts, which are like their parents, come out.
Right.
But at one
sounds like something else.
Yeah, but at one point the guy she falls in love with falls into the trapdoor, and it's kind of it's their house but upside down.
Okay,
underneath
so
it.
The Coraline effect.
Yeah, and all underwater. So
I once watched similarly, not really, kind of similar idea. I watched a film called As Above, So Below, which takes place in catacombs under Paris, but it just keeps going and going and going and going, and then eventually they come out in upside down Paris.
Oh, cool.
But that was a really... I haven't seen that in like 8 years or something, but that was a really weird film.
Oh, I bet.
And I had a lot of fun with it as well,
Yeah.
you know? Sometimes you watch something and you're like, I'm not really sure what's going on, but I'm unnerved. Sometimes I like that more than I'm scared. Like, I'm just confused and this is just weird, like thematically and conceptually.
Yeah. No, if you want a film just to kind of like laugh at a bit,
okay.
It would like...
No, I'll give that a try though, because I'm always game to give like an Irish film a try as well.
Yeah, no,
so.
I was in the cinema, there was like 3 couples, and that was it. and everyone else was kind of taking it a bit seriously, but I had to stifle a couple laughs because it just...
I think the word stifle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, stifle a couple of laughs.
I had to stifle or stifle a couple laughs because
whichever one you say is wrong.
Yeah. Symbiote.
Cool. I watched the first episode and a half of that new Netflix show, The Haunting on the Hill or something.
The Horror of Haunting Hill?
Yeah, something like that.
My friend's watching it and loving it.
Yeah, my friend's watching it and loving it, and I will not watch any more.
Okay.
I just didn't care.
Was it bad, or is it just not your thing?
It wasn't bad. It was like, we move into the new big house and it's spooky and the door is open when I thought I closed it, and there's like, a family and they've got like way too many kids, and I'm just like,
most of these gonna die.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. How about here's an idea. How about instead of people moving into a house, they're moving out of a house?
How about the house moves into them?
Whoa. Actually, I think that's probably been done. Just being stepped by a house.
Yeah, probably.
No, but they don't move into the house. They've lived a happy life in this house for like 12 years.
And they want to move out.
They
and the
want to
house
move out,
doesn't want
and
them
then
to go.
yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be like something different.
Yeah,
It'd
counting down the days.
It'd still be like a house being spooky, but like it would be something else other than.
Something that I always thought was brilliant about the what's it called, Paranormal Activity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know those films are like fun films to hate on. Everyone's like, "Oh, those films are so dumb," and they are dumb in their way. But there's something to be said for that found footage, Blair Witch Project, Paranormal Activity, Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Like horror film setup. Wreck. That's a really great Spanish film. Found footage as well. But the way that like it's daytime and you feel like that sense of relief, and then it cuts to the next time that it's night and you get scared just instantly. But wouldn't it be cool, right, if instead like they changed it on their head for one film, and like everything happens during the day and like nighttime is the respite. Like it doesn't have to be like the main concept of the film, but one time making the daytime the scary time would be cool, I think. Like
I don't think it'd be like super hard to do.
No,
I think because I know like there's a whole thing like humans are scared of the dark, but also I think if you make nighttime being resting time,
that's also natural, isn't it?
Yeah, then that's also natural, and then that's also where you could go off making nighttime the safe time.
Great. So I'm going to pitch a TV show. We're actually running pretty late with this podcast. We're on 56 minutes already.
We thought this one was going to be a shorter one.
We did, yeah, but we kind of rambled quite a bit, but that's fine.
Yeah. And if it's not, then I'm sorry.
Not, then just don't listen to this part, I guess. Thanks for listening. But do listen, because this is cool.
Okay. Yeah,
okay,
please.
so I talked a little bit about this last week. There's a series called The Dead of Night, which started way back like pre-superhero Marvel.
Yep.
Introduced this character, the Digger.
Yes.
Who digs graves and tells stories while he's doing it. And he's got a whole like story, but whatever. Who cares about that, basically?
Who cares about that, Louis?
So this would be like a TV show, maybe like a 4 or 5 part TV show.
So not too long, just.
And it'd be called Dead of Night. Mm-hmm. And it would basically have this character who tells the story, so you'd cut to him occasionally.
Yeah.
And he's digging a grave, maybe even digging multiple graves in different locations throughout the story. Mm-hmm. But he's telling the story as well. Yeah. So it'd be really loosely based on comics, so I'm incorporating several comics that aren't really connected, but they're all more horror-leaning ones.
Okay, yeah, I get you.
So, first of all, there's several characters. So, Man-Thing is one. All of this could take place in Florida. So, there's what are they called? The Everglades, like the swampy areas of Florida. All of it could take place close to there. And that's like a pretty horrific. Like we've been to Florida, we've been around Florida, we've been on like not jet skis, what are they called, like hoverboat things.
Hoverboats, yeah.
Around like those swamps, and like the trees are horrible, organic looking. Like they look like H.R. Geiger designs, and like everything smells weird, and there's massive bugs, and like it's just a scary spot.
And then like every now and then it's like, oh, there's just like a giant alligator just writhing in the water next to you.
Yeah, and some of the houses there look like older than Westerners have been in America, and you're like they're sinking in, and it's like a scary place.
It's like the land is kind of taking them back in or something. It's disgusting.
So you'd have the Digger as like the guy in there, and he's like basically a rotting corpse himself. He's got like greeny bluey flesh, and it's like rotting away in parts. And I said this like in maybe one of our practice episodes before we started posting these, but you know the guy Stephen Yeun? He was in The Walking Dead. He played Glenn. He was in don't watch The Walking Dead, by the way, it's bad. He was in Oksha, the Netflix film.
Oh yeah, the one about
the
pigs?
Giant pig thing.
Yeah.
He's in a few things, and most recently he's in a film called Sorry to Bother You, which I'm not going to say anything about, but like that has my highest recommendation. It's such an interesting film.
Yeah.
But so he's an Asian lead.
Yeah.
And you don't get enough of them. And Steven Yeun is such a talented actor, and I've not seen him in anything. I'm sure he's probably been in something, but he really deserves like a lead part.
Yeah.
Now, granted, this is under prosthetics and stuff, but like he's just a terrific actor, and I'd really like to see him in something like this. It'd be different, and he'd be a perfect part for it. I've been saying for ages we need to get him in Marvel. Yeah. And I think this is like just right.
This is what you do.
So yeah, he's telling several stories, and I don't have a way for these stories to really link up, but there would, in the writing, there would be some kind of way. So you'd have maybe like 3 or 4 characters, and then in the 4th or 5th episode, it'd like explain how they linked, and maybe the bodies that he's burying could be the victims of these characters and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, you've got the man thing. His deal is he lives in the swamp with his wife, and he's working on basically recreating like a super soldier type serum thing. Yeah. He finds out that he's actually working for Hydra instead of S.H.I.E.L.D. Someone lets slip. His wife turns out to be in on it as well. Okay. Basically, he dives into the swamp, and the serum goes in with him, and he becomes like a swamp thing monster.
He's made out of vegetation and stuff.
Yeah, but he's terrifying.
Oh, he is. He's got these big red eyes, like Mothman eyes.
Yeah, and he's an empath as well, so he can like feel people's fear, and so like when people see him, they're scared, and then he gets scared and gets angry at, lashes out and stuff. And
and isn't there something to do with like acid about him?
Probably, I don't know. But he secretes like swamp sludge and
which is like acidic.
And he just doesn't want people to come to the Everglades, basically, as well. You could also include the lizard who comes from the Everglades in the Spider-Man villain.
Oh yeah,
he works there and basically wants to make the swamp just full of lizards, and then the whole world like literally like reptiles, basically. Reptiles, so he can control them, and you could almost do it like a political type thing where he's trying to like force people out of the area and stuff. Yeah. And I think that'd be interesting.
So when he's like in his human form, he's trying to get people to leave.
Yeah, so like you wouldn't need it to be like CGI or stupid prosthetics for the whole thing.
Yeah, that's a good way
and
to do it.
He'd do it by like killing important people and stuff like that. But then there'd be fear from everyone, and the swamp thing would also be kind of feeling that fear and anger then as well. So that'd link in pretty well. Then another character is Elsa Bloodstone. Bloodstones are really... So Bloodstone was an old Marvel character. He's kind of like an explorer Indiana Jones type guy, but with more magic and artifact trinkets and stuff like that. So Elsa Bloodstone's story is she didn't really know her dad, but she lives in England with her mum, and then they go to the Everglades, find this spooky big massive house full of like haunted artifacts and stuff like that. She gets this bloodstone necklace type thing, which like it bites you when it gets on you, and then it becomes part of you and gives you like powers and stuff. Okay. It's pretty spooky. And also just like actual Frankenstein's monster lives in the house. Okay. His name's Adam.
Oh yeah.
And he just lives in the house, and
because they've got like a
magic. They've got like a magic lamp that they can use for teleportation. So this one's much more like mystical than like earthy. But she's a really interesting character. Like honestly, when you go back and read it, you're like frankly, it's a little gross the way that they depict her. It's like 2000, so you think that they should have known better. But it's just kind of drawn in like a creepy style. But I think as a character, she's kind of like the Lara Croft of and she'd be really fun to have. So I'd have her, and then
she was in that Doctor Strange one which had kind of all the magic users in, wasn't she?
Oh, I'm sure she probably was. Yeah. And she showed up in one of the Civil War spin-offs as well, same as Slapstick and other characters, because that was obviously like a worldwide spanning. Yeah. But she'd be so cool to have in, and she brings in loads of other things, so like Frankenstein's monster, but she also runs into like actual Dracula quite frequently.
Would you have it be actual Dracula and actual Frankenstein, or would it be like you'd call him Adam and he's like a big lumbering zombie?
He'd be like a big... Yeah, I wouldn't be like, I was made by Frankenstein.
Yeah,
but Dracula maybe would have the name, but I'd maybe leave it grey as to whether he's adopted the name because it's human folklore or because he is an actual Dracula, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe like it's not going to be a bolt through the neck. Dracula.
No, but maybe kind of like stitching on the forehead type thing.
Yeah.
And I've got actors for all of these people as well.
Great.
I really want Rupert Grint for Adam the monster.
Hell yeah!
He's not doing anything nowadays, as far as I can tell. He's
doing like some indie stuff, but
is he?
Yeah.
He'd have like a big old prosthetic on and just kind of lumber around and be like, "Oh, it's me, I'm British." He'd be fun.
Why is Rupert Grint's voice on Frankenstein the funniest thing?
It fits though.
It does.
I can feel it. For Elsa Bloodstone, I've got two options. Actually, wait, no. I had a third one that I thought of since I've written these notes down. Okay, but the first one I have is Auli'i Carvalho. Auli'i is a Hawaiian name. I might be pronouncing it wrong, but she's the voice from that Disney film that Moana, yeah. She voices Moana. She's in a TV show which I've seen clips of because I was researching. Yeah. I've not seen the whole show, but she seems pretty good in that. And she just seems like a really interesting... So, the character's white in the comics, and it's like she's got an English mother and an American father. But I feel like we've seen that English person goes to America enough times that maybe, it'd be interesting to put a different twist on it and make it... Hawaiian mother and American father or whatever. It works fine. I think that would be cool. Because she just seems like a really fun. Like I've seen some interviews of her with The Rock and stuff. And
they're just having a good time.
She seems like fun, and she seems quite charismatic and young enough that I could, and adventurous enough that I could see her in that kind of Lara Croft type role.
Yeah, for sure.
But also like putting her up against like a horrid looking Dracula monster would be enough juxtaposition that it would be like, Beauty and the Beast type thing. Yeah. Alternatively, if you wanted to go more traditional, I thought Saoirse Ronan would be a good option as well, because she's, more like the kind of blonde, European. Yeah, no, I like the gal who played Moana.
I
looked up how to pronounce it. I'm fairly sure it's auli'i.
Auli'i.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I know like a lot of interviewers just like called her Moana, which was kind of really off.
Not really okay, is it?
No.
And we're back.
Oh, okay.
We're going to talk at the same time now that we're back.
We're back, baby, and this time it's personal.
And we just had some hot mulled cider.
Yeah, it was really good.
So we're a little, our tongues are a little looser now.
I was going to say heavier.
Oh.
Loose and heavy.
The conversation flows more freely once you've
consumed a cup of hot cider.
Yes, that's correct. Sorry, you were in the middle of saying something and pretending like we didn't just have an hour break.
Yeah, no, I really like that cast, and that works for both Rupert Grint and for what's her name, Bloodstone, Lady Bloodstone,
Elsa Bloodstone.
Yeah,
though it's confusing because her mother is Elsie Bloodstone, and I'm like, this is too close.
We can change that, right?
Yeah, we can change that. Let's call her Margaret.
Okay.
Yep, Miss Margaret Bloodstone.
Or just...
The mother's not an important character anyway. It's all about that Frankenstein's monster, baby.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, no, auli'i Carvalho. It's not Carvalho. It's Carvalho.
Okay. And who do you have as Man-Thing?
So Man-Thing, I have Alan Tudyk, who's from all sorts of things, notably... he was the K2TSO in Rogue One.
Yes,
he was the robot in iRobot.
Was he the robot in Big Hero 6 as well?
Maybe.
Man, he loves his robots, huh?
He's in all sorts of things. He's been in some Guillermo del Toro films, I'm fairly sure.
Attempt to go the opposite and go organic as possible.
Yeah, well, why not?
A man made out of plant matter.
He was in Firefly, the TV show. Or, yeah, he was, right? He was. He was in Frozen, apparently. Oh. He was in Moana.
Hey!
I didn't know. Oh, yeah. Was he the chicken or something?
Yeah.
He was, right?
He was, yeah, which is just pretty funny.
So he's been in a lot of things, and hey, look, we can bring those two castings back together for the reunion that we've all been waiting for.
Yeah.
Also, every time I think of like anyone to play a character that's just larger, imposing, I always think of David Harbour, He's in Stranger Things. He's the sheriff. And he's the new Hellboy.
Yeah.
And I always think like, oh, put him in. But like literally every character that's somewhat large. And then I was thinking, you know what? Like, let's maybe do some CGI motion capture type stuff. Let's get Alan Tudyk in there. You know, because Man-Thing is Ted Ellis when he's a human, and I think there'd be some playing the human part in there as well.
For sure.
I think that'd be really... And I like the idea of him and... you know, where he kind of feels most himself when he's Man-Thing, but then you'd have the Lizard who feels most himself when he's human. So they're kind of opposites, and their goals are opposite, but they kind of rile each other up as well.
Yeah,
because
this is quite a different version of the Lizard. I really like it. This kind of one who's kind of gone into politics a little bit, but
yeah, right. Like I could see it being done in an interesting way, not like a Netflix TV show, but like a Disney streaming show.
Yeah, and I've got kind of like quite a clear picture of him in my head. Yeah,
I don't really have a good casting for the Lizard. I don't think.
In my mind, he's a little bit older. He's blonde.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think because like we've seen a couple of live action lizards, it's a little bit harder for me.
Yeah.
So I'm not in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. He wasn't the Lizard. He was just Kurt Connors. Also in the comic books, all of kind of his family drama is fascinating and really interesting because he's got a son who grows up to resent him and want to kill him and stuff. And like it's really. It's kind of like it's somewhat of like a metaphor for alcoholism, I presume, where he keeps like falling off the wagon and going back to the Lizard, but then you know people's lives are at stake and their families' lives are at stake and everything's they're scared for, and I think that could be a fascinating case study as well.
Yeah, you could go into that a bit as well.
And I really like this kind of picture I have in my head of this series set here, and you've got you know, just like mosquitoes and like bubbling swamp, and like it's just disgusting. It feels like an episode of like Goosebumps TV show or something, you know. And and the other casting I have is Edward James Olmos is Dracula, and Edward James Olmos is from a lot of things, but most notably from well, maybe not most notably, but what I imagine most people would know him from is Blade Runner, where he played the dude with the mustache who makes the little origami guy. So he's a much older guy now. He's got a big old mustache. I'd say he's in his late 70s maybe. But I think that would be an interesting take on Dracula as well. Like we're used to kind of the quite smooth-faced young, you know, British man, but he's like, I think he's Southern American, or at least part Southern American anyway. He's an older gentleman, and imagine him kind of like a big, not like a cloak, but just a coat, like a big coat with a high collar on it. Yeah. I could see him being like a very modern Dracula, but in like a creepy, just kind of weird man, like with, you know, like weird older man who you don't know much about, like where does he get his fortune from and how come he's, you know, he remembers things like much better than he should, and a much more grounded Dracula. I think that'd be a fun
definitely.
one.
And again, there's kind of that thing where is he actually the Dracula from the stories, or has he...
That was my knuckle cracking, by the way. Sorry.
No, that was Meara punching me in the face. No, the breaking of my...
Sometimes I forget that things like that are going to show up on you know, on the podcast. Sorry.
No, it's okay. But I'm apologizing for them. But
you're welcome.
But I like the kind of aspect of, is he actually Dracula, or is he someone who's taken on the persona, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't... Like, even though you have, like, literal monsters like the Lizard and Man-Thing in this, I wouldn't want it to be, like, super, like, fantastical.
Going down, like, the dark universe kind of...
Yeah, I want it to be a bit more, like, you know, like, gross and sticky and sweaty and, like, just... I don't know. I've got a really clear vision for it. And I love this idea that the Digger, like, narrates the whole thing. Yeah. And, you know, there's some kind of connection between the stories, other than they take place in a similar place, and that... The last episode he'll kind of tie into the story in some way, you know, or he's helped cover things up in order to keep the peace or something like that. I think it would work really well, and it would be completely different to anything we've seen in, not even just Marvel, but in superhero lore in general, where it's people that are largely unconnected but in similar places, and it's more horror themed. It's like the closest thing you'd have would be the Defenders and whatnot, but like this would be so departed
It'd
from
be very
that.
different, yeah.
And the fact that you'd have like a narrator who spans across it and stuff, and
it sounds almost to me something like along the lines of what Defenders is to like the Avengers, it is to like more of like a Doctor Strange, Constantine kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe down that kind of route. And you could have something like that. You could include like a Doctor Strange cameo, or
maybe a reference.
Maybe actually a character like Voodoo would be a better fit for something like that, because you could have some weird stuff goes on in those swamps. I don't say that knowingly, but you can imagine, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Some weird kind of like
Voodoo
bush magic type
Doctor
stuff.
Voodoo, depending on
on the version.
Because every magic character is a doctor or a professor.
Well, you gotta be. Otherwise, you're not gonna be Nurse Strange.
Yeah, damn. Guess you're right.
Damn. Yeah, so that's my idea for the show. Dead of Night.
Yeah, no, I'm really.
I think it'd be spooky.
I'm almost excited for it. I really got on board.
And I don't have like enough of a pitch that it's like, and then it all ties together in this way. But it's like the grounds for it, and I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be really cool.
I'll tell you what. Speaking about Dracula and spooky things, I know of a play. It's an
I thought you were going to say, I know Dracula.
I know Dracula himself. He's
cool
a
guy.
pretty nice guy. Yeah, no, I know of this play. It's Australian made, and it's about when the boat passage, when Dracula was brought on a boat to
Australia,
to London.
Oh, right.
Because
from where?
From Transylvania or whatever.
Okay.
Because the story starts there, and then
Transylvania is a real place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know this for some reason.
No, I thought it was fake.
No, apparently it's a real place.
Huh. Well, because the story has him being that's where he came, and then he like goes to London in stories. But this is kind of like him on the boat ride.
Yeah.
And it almost reminds me a bit of that one episode where Fisk takes control of the prison, because obviously Dracula he's in it this like locked up in this cage, and he doesn't get out.
Okay.
But you see him just taking control of this ship.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that would be a cool standalone episode.
Yeah. And I'll find the name of that play, because I listened to the pitch for it, and it was really something else.
Oh, so it's not actually a play.
No, it is a play,
it is,
but I've not been able to see the play. I was just able to hear the pitch.
Right, cool. Yeah. Well, speaking of actually Dracula and kind of how he'd fit into the other thing, Bloodstone meets. So basically, there's this genie lamp, right? Mm-hmm. And the original Bloodstone had it, Sir Bloodstone or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
So it's a genie in a lamp. You get 3 wishes. So his first wish is, I wish I had unlimited wishes. And then the genie's like, you can't do that. And then he's like, I wish I could. And the genie's like, damn. So the genie's just trapped in the lamp.
Okay.
He's like, I guess his third wish, which doesn't matter the number anymore, was just, you can't get out of here now.
Yeah.
So he's just stuck in the lamp. And
that's such a good. I wish I could.
Yeah. But now basically every time anything bad is happening, which is related to the kind of like artifact-y type, magic-y stuff, basically if you hold it and you say like wish of any kind, it'll take you like where you need to be.
Yeah, so it won't like
it takes place in like some like Eastern European type of place, He just happens to be there like being a bad guy, and then she's there and she's like, you're Dracula, and he's like, I know you're here to kill me, but you won't, and she's like, no, I've no idea what's happening.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we'd work it out in a cool way. Like I might actually work on it more.
Yeah,
like, I think it's cool.
I'd love to hear more about it. Actually.
Yeah, Dead of Night series.
Yeah, I had something else to say. What was it?
I don't know, but we better say it quick because we're coming up to an hour and a half.
Hey, I'll remember it and I'll say it next time.
All right, great. Well,
it's not spooky. But
thanks for today, Elliot.
Thank you for today, and thank you for listening.
And thank you for listening. The other day I said when I did that podcast or the video about the Defenders and Netflix and Luke Cage and whatnot, I said there's 45 minutes. It's pretty good to listen to on your way to work or something, because I read that the average person's commute is 45 minutes. So I guess now you got commute there and the commute back.
Yeah.
And hey, more bang for your buck, baby.
We've got you back. Yeah. All right.
We're geniuses. All right. Thanks for listening. Have a spooky Halloween, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
God bless.